Welcome again, everyone, to this Wednesday's meditation on Twin Hearts. So we'll do a reading. I'm filling in for Sid this evening. So I'm Dr. Gauri Subramanian here at the British Pranic Healing Council. So welcome to everybody. And today's topic, we're going to continue on constancy of aim and effort. Most of them from the teachings of Master Choa Kok Sui. So feel free to chime in. Today we'll be reading, I know Sid reads from various different books. So today he's told me to do it from this little pocket series called the Golden Lotus Sutras. And this one is on character building called Compassionate Objectivity. So if you have the book, you may turn to the section where it says constancy of aim and effort. Okay. So, like all virtues of Master Choa has introduced to us, there's 5. So 3 have been taught in pranic healing already. The first one being loving kindness and non-injury. Second one, generosity, non-stealing. Third one, accurate perception, correct expression, or honesty and non-lying. Okay. Now, 2 others are introduced in our Hatha Yoga. So I know a few of you have signed up in October, which is great. So today, if you haven't signed up, take this as a bonus. So the 4th one is this one, constancy of aim and effort and non-laziness. So this is part of the golden virtues that Master Choa shares, and there's 5 of them, the golden rules. Okay, you'll find that there's a balance. So there is the do and the don't, or the yang, which is the do, or the masculine energy, nothing to do with sex, male or female, but it's the masculine energy, and then balanced with the yin, or the feminine aspect, which is the conservation or the preservation, so the non-injury part, or the non-laziness in this virtue. Okay, so he never just gives us one, he always gives us there needs to be a balance. So in order to practice this virtue properly, it's constancy of aim, constancy of effort, balanced with non-laziness. Okay, so we'll see what they are. So he could have easily called this industriousness. As if you look at all the other virtues, right? So there's like usually just one name, so like generosity with non-stealing. So you could have easily called this industriousness and non-laziness, but he chose constancy of aim and constancy of effort instead of the word industriousness. So I looked it up. Now this is just my interpretation, so feel free to throw in your 2 cents as well. So my understanding, based on the dictionary definition, industriousness is hardworking and diligence. Now that can be hardworking in any area or any aspect of our life. Have you ever been there? And sometimes where we are doing so many things one day, and at the end of the day, you sit down, you go, I feel like I haven't really accomplished anything. But you're actually running around, chasing your tail, if it were, constantly trying to do all the different things that we need to do as a mom, as an employee, as a daughter, as a wife, and so on and so forth. So that's why that definition, in my view, is different to constancy of aim and effort. In order to be consistent in aim and effort, there needs to be a goal. So you need to know where you're heading. There needs to be a direction. Therefore, your aim, there needs to be the bullseye. And then you can make the effort that is consistent in that same direction. Otherwise, it's like a headless chicken. I'm doing this, I feel busy, right? I am really hardworking, but it's not necessarily towards the aim or the effort. And sometimes we make excuses. So therefore, this non-laziness comes in, because sometimes you say, what are you doing? Oh, I'm really, really busy. But you're not actually doing the things that you need to do. We make excuses for the things that we actually need to do. Yeah. Okay, so a sharp mind alone is not enough to produce, is not enough. You need to produce results. That's what he says, which is true. And that's where, have you ever found people that you come across that have very, very good ideas, but they never actually act on them? So, well, oh, I thought about that. Oh, I thought about that 20 years ago. Oh, I could have done it better. I could have this, I could have, and this. as they're saying, what is it? Should is there's a proverbial that comes after that, right? SH, you can fill in the blanks because you didn't actually do it. So actually doing it is the will factor. So as what this is, the results that counts, because you have to produce the results. Yeah. So that's where the constant aim and effort comes in. Now, why this is one of the hardest virtues is because we need to know our goal. You need to know where you're heading. So I think there's a Chinese saying, "Oh, there is no direction. The wind is not in anyone's favor because you're not knowing which direction that the boat is going to sail in." Right? So if you know that you have a goal that I want to get this promotion, or I want to have traveled and seen this many countries by this age, or get to, done all these different levels of spiritual growth by this date. So then there is a goal. So then you're working towards it. I need to have made this amount of sales for my business. So now you need to know how much marketing you need to put in or where you need to drive, how much money you need to have. So then you can concentrate your effort towards that goal, if that makes sense. So that's the first thing that we need to know, whether it's in a relationship, our work, our financial goals, or even our leisure, travel goals. Do we even have goals for that? And how then we can put the effort into getting that. Okay. So what's the next thing he says? So constancy of aim and effort is the quality needed for greatness. So as we mentioned earlier, so if there's no objective and you don't know where you're going, how can we manifest our greatness if we're just managing to get by? Yeah. Okay. If a person masters the virtue of constancy of aim and effort, then that person is destined to be successful. Okay, this follows on from the previous one. So constancy of aim and effort is a manifestation of the will factor. Now, without the development of the heart, the will manifest as ruthlessness, which is why the meditation on twin hearts is the very first or the staple meditation, because everybody needs to develop their heart. Because without that, if you can imagine, so you're just very bull-like or one-pointed in your direction, but you don't have the heart aspect. Now you can be very, very harsh or ruthless, but people like that are extremely successful. I don't know if you know anyone in your capacity or any famous person. They are extremely ruthless, but they really make a lot of enemies along the way because they're so focused, nothing distracts them. They will go places, they will be extremely successful, okay? And unfortunately, if the heart is not developed, they can be very, very hard. I've worked with bosses like that. They're extremely hard. There's no great gratitude. There's no appreciation. They don't even have patience because patience is a quality of the heart. There's no flexibility. If you're, a few minutes late to work or a meeting, they can be very harsh in the punishments because for them, it's about the goal. It's about the end result. So when the heart is not developed, Master Choa Kok Sui says that the will manifest as ruthlessness. Yeah. Are we okay on that? Does anybody want to share their views or comments? No. Go for it if you do. Okay, not today. That's grand. Okay, so the next thing he says here is both saints and ruthless people are embodiments of constancy of aim and effort and non-laziness. The difference is that a saint has greater development of the heart. But a good heart alone is not enough. You must overcome your inner inertia. You must have willpower. So, did you see the difference there? So, even if we take the likes of, well, let's take Mother Teresa or Mahatma Gandhi, they used heart, compassion, and love, right, to fight for their cause. Even Nelson Mandela, Thich Nhat Hanh. So they didn't use, so it was non-violence to fly whatever flag that they were flying, but they were persistent and consistent towards their goal. in helping humanity, fighting for basic human rights. So constancy of aim and effort needs to be, otherwise nothing will be achieved. And this is the part where most people fall down, the willpower, because of distractions in life. All right, so if you know the 1st of January, it is so common for people to set their goals, right? Take one classic example, weight loss, and going to the gym, starting new diets and fads. And stats show that they only last about 2 weeks on average, and then it starts to fall off. Now, why is that? So if you have taken pranic psychotherapy, that's the third level of pranic healing, you might have an understanding that there is these entities and elementals. So that's why it makes it harder. So there's the old program for, everyday language, right? That's the old program that is in there that is larger. So when that program is larger, that big fish, if you like, is going to eat that small fish. The small fish that I want to go to the gym, I'm determined to lose weight. Whereas they're like, no, you know what? Netflix is better. Just start tomorrow. Just start tomorrow. So this fish is much bigger. So it ends up eating the smaller fish. Okay. So it takes a while. So if you have pranic psychotherapy, then there are ways to start to reduce that. At the same time, obviously, build the positive aspects of constant aim and effort. Okay, so even if we look at good people, whether it's the Master Choa Kok Sui or any of the saints and stuff, even if you take the Lord Jesus, he was a rabbi and his goal was to spread Christianity. So you still have to be one-pointed, whatever your goal is. Okay, so that's what he's saying in this particular stance. Both saints as well as ruthless people both embody constancy of aim and effort. I wanted to say some other famous people, but they've done some very unkind things. Maybe not mention their names, but associated with certain world wars and stuff, but they were pretty consistent. So there the heart was not developed, but they were consistent and they achieved, whatever goals that they set. Okay, so that's why the very first meditation is meditation on twin hearts. So even as you progress through Arhatic yoga, it's an extremely powerful one. So I've been told that it's part of even like the higher Arhatic yoga levels, because the key and the secret is in the heart. It opens up your ability to have clairvoyance, clairaudience, your ability to see and hear other people's thought forms. And because you have the heart, you would not misuse those faculties that you then develop, right? It allows you to become a better version of yourself, to serve your family, to serve your business and the wider community. All right. So let's do a few more here. What's the next part? Another term for constancy of aim and effort is industriousness. Okay, so there's an aspect of constancy of aim and effort that he addresses here called industriousness that we started out with. Here he says, make a schedule. Okay, a schedule or schedule is a manifestation of an emotional commitment. So when you set a schedule, you're committing physical effort, that you are diarizing that this particular time is going to be blocked out for, like you're all here on a Wednesday to meditate. So you are investing in yourself, and that's a commitment to yourself, to your growth, and that's an act of will that you've showed up here every week for your growth. Okay, so you've set a schedule. This makes sure that you commit. I know some of you go to your running activities. So some things we're really, really good at, and that's a strong quality. So if you're a pranic healer, you can, I think everyone here is, so you can actually scan, right? If you know how to scan, you can scan the quality in you. How big is the constancy of aim and effort in me, right? And if you know a particular quality of yours, then you can compare that is strong. You can compare that to that quality, right? Let's say you're a very loving person or a very generous person or a very patient person. So scan that quality in you. So then you have an understanding. And after that, you can scan the constancy of aim and effort in your industriousness. How does that compare to one of your strongest suits? Okay. And if you wish, you can also scan the converse, the laziness aspect. So, am I generally lazy? Or specifically on a particular topic? You can even hone in on a particular topic because sometimes we have procrastination. We're good at doing so many other things, but maybe when it comes to taxes or giving a person X a phone call, we keep putting it off and keep putting it off. So maybe it is not laziness. So it's worth checking, why haven't I done taxes or calling this person or applying for this promotion or job. So is it laziness? Because this is where scanning really helps you hone in on what is it that you need to do. It may not be laziness. It may be injury. Maybe this person that you were supposed to ring has been mean to you in the past. So you do want to ring, but that energetic cord is, there's an entanglement between the two of you, right? So unless, I mean, scanning is not a diagnostic tool, but it can be there to help. Okay. Scanning by just keeping the intention. Yes, you just keep the intention of what it is. So otherwise you're just scanning nothing, and then you don't know what to read. So you need to be clear on what you need to scan, and you scan that thing that you have put the specification on. Okay. So once you know, if you're scanning something specific, like why haven't I been able to call this person? All right, is it the fact that is it injury? All right, or is it what else? Could be laziness. Anything else that you can think of that could be a reason as to why you're avoiding this task. So it may not always be particularly laziness if you avoid doing something. Maybe it's not aligned to your goals or your current purpose and your direction in life. Yeah. So maybe only when it comes around to their birthday, maybe you give them a call, something like that. So this helps to evaluate where we are and where we need to strengthen or work on with a particular goal that we're working towards. Okay. So once you have a schedule, maintain the schedule. Do not let anything stop you. Follow your target non-stop. Now, really and truly, if we want to achieve something, we should have a schedule and work towards it every single day. So even if it's 10 minutes a day, it shows that we are committed. If, for example, we want to learn a new language, every single day, even though how busy we are and we're ready to go to bed and we're like, I'll just do it tomorrow. The difference, this is where character comes in, right? Because this book is on character building. If you stayed up just that extra 10 minutes because you commit, and 10 minutes is doable, right? And you commit to Duolingo and learning that language. It's the times when you feel you don't want to and you do show up. That's where character is. It makes a difference. Okay. And once you have a target, follow it until you hit it. You must behave like a heat-seeking missile. Whatever you start, you should finish. I mean, he was a classic example, Master Choa Kok Sui, of this virtue. Okay, so if you have been around in the school for some time, I don't know everyone on the call, but if you have been around some time, in the 80s, when he was developing this system of pranic healing and arhatic yoga, the order of the virtues were not what we know it to be today. Today we have loving kindness and non-injury as the first virtue in that order. Then constancy of aim and effort becomes the fourth virtue. Now, why he wanted everyone to develop the heart first, as you saw, for those reasons, being ruthless or sterile intelligence, because you're sterile, you have all this knowledge, okay, and not doing anything with it, and then it just dies with you. This is not very helpful. So it needs to be active intelligence. We're actually doing something with it, okay? So in the early days, constancy of aim and effort, non-laziness, was virtue number one. Okay, so Master Choa Kok Sui is a very willful man, and the people he started to attract, because that was the kind of energy that he was giving out. He had a goal. He knew his mission. He's a spiritual teacher, and he knew his mission was to spread these teachings. Okay. So he needed also to attract people with those qualities, the will qualities, to be able to spread the word. All right. There were stories of these people who are still around, like Master Nona, who's now in her 80s, used to say she was a few minutes late entering the class, and he said, "Who are you to enter and to walk into my room late?" And she was like, "What kind of a welcome is this?" And she turned around and about to close the door behind her and said, "No, thank you. You don't talk to me like that." Only someone grabbed her hand and said, "Please give him another chance." But Master Nona explains, she's one of his 8 surviving masters. She says, actually, the true meaning of what this person said was, "Please, can I give myself another chance?" And that's how she interpreted the situation. So he was very rigid and he was very strict because he knew he had a goal. He had to write X number of books, and he also had to spread the teachings. And the people that and the disciples that he recruited in the early days, he was really, really harsh. And I've met some people who are still around in the Philippines. They say whenever he was coming, they would hide under the table or they would be busy on the phone call. They just wanted to avoid him because they were really afraid. And yes, if you've ever had bosses or family members like that, they do instill fear in other people. Okay. But he was very, very successful in spreading pranic healing really fast, really quick. You imagine in the 80s and 90s, we don't have social media in one click and you can be all over in over 200 countries, nearly, to get spread so quickly. So it was a traditional old-fashioned ringing some yoga studio halfway around the world, putting posters up in bus stops and trying to get to places. But he was determined, and all the people that he attracted then, they knew that the first virtue back then was industriousness or constancy of aim and effort to get pranic healing spread. So it really did. And after a certain point, then he really, I mean, he already had a very developed heart anyway. And it is now the virtues then changed because he also saw the results of that. People were being too harsh, they were being too hard, and people were leaving the school. So, he was so obviously highly developed, he could pick up on that and he could immediately, he's not one of those that, has inertia when it needs to be changing things around. He can change like that, whereas the rest of us, we can't do cold turkey. But, he started to really blossom the heart, and that became the first virtue. And actually, that is the secret, because not only did he attract, because one of the qualities of the heart is magnetism. So if somebody with a very developed heart really magnetizes people, right? You're drawn to people who are sweet, who are lovely. I think most of us would agree, right? You would naturally be attracted to people like that because it's a very warm and welcoming energy. So we changed the virtues around, and now loving kindness and non-injury is first. Okay. And I think Siddharth talked about honesty and non-lying in one of the previous sessions. Whenever there's a conflict between the virtues, loving kindness always trumps. If you have to be honest with somebody, but it's going to hurt them, then do not do it. Okay? At least that's not what's recommended. Loving kindness first. Okay, so where we are, so constant aim and effort means constantly thinking of the steps needed to accomplish your plan, define your purpose, and make a thorough alternative analysis. What is the most effective and easiest way to achieve the end result? Yeah. So that's mental effort that he's referring to, because sometimes we make a plan, and I can say this having worked in companies before, they're so focused on making this 12-month goal, 12-month plan and forecast and budgeting, and then you shelve it. You never go back to it, right? Until it's time for your KPI reviews and you go like, hey, did you hit your goals? No? Okay, great. We'll try again next year. Whereas actually, this is something you need to revisit constantly. And that's where you keep adjusting. So that's when you make the shifts, and that's how you remain sharp and on top of the game. Okay. Now I think we can do 5 more and then we can switch over to the meditation. All right. So there must be conviction in your words. A person who stands by his word must first see clearly, think clearly, and formulate the plan properly before making a commitment. Now, there are many levels to this because somewhere else he also says, do not give away your yes so easily, because when you promise too easily, you tend not to keep it. Right? When someone says, hey, can we meet this? Or can you do this? Can you take on this project? And you think just to impress this person, I'm like, yeah, I can help you. Absolutely. And then bit off more than you can chew, and you realize then you're faltering. So your words are your power, and therefore you have to live by them. That's why he says, pause first, think clearly, see clearly, which is accurate perception, which is the Ajna chakra, and then you formulate the plan accordingly before you say, yes, I can do this, or no, I can't. Yeah. Now that's where we come back to the gap. Every time we focus on this interval or gap, which we have in meditation on twin hearts, in the breath work, there's always a gap between any movement before a change in direction, between mantras. And the extrapolation of this is into our lives. So if we pause and think, if someone says, like, can you do this? Are you able to? Or even if you ask yourself, is this goal too much for me? So you have to pause, really reflect, and then come with a proper answer. Okay? Now, a person must be reliable to have constancy. You have one-pointedness. You must keep to your commitments so you are reliable and trustworthy. Be one-pointed. Power comes from voluntary inner restriction, or one-pointedness in purpose and effort. So it usually means inner restriction, is what it says, comes from voluntary inner restriction, meaning there is a choice. A choice comes back to the will factor again. Do I go for this 60th wedding anniversary, or do I sit and join this Wednesday evening Twin Hearts? Everything we do is a choice. Do I go and doom scroll on Instagram, or do I don't know, play card games with my family? Everything is a choice. We think we don't have a choice, but actually every moment is a choice. So it's a voluntary inner restriction. Okay, it comes back down somewhere else. He talks about steam. Now, steam in open air is pretty useless, but if you contain, so you restrict that steam, it can move a whole engine, steam engine. So the power is really when it comes to inner willpower or inner restriction, because this is not going to serve my purpose, constant and aim towards my goal. Okay, so and he also says, having a good heart is not enough. This is where the will comes in. This is where the purpose comes in. We talked about that. And you have to have the will to do good. You need power. Good heart is good, but power is necessary. Power under love, under intelligence. Okay? So without love, power will manifest as atrocity. Have you ever seen? Yeah, that's when we talked about, right? People were just completely ruthless. They don't care whether you make it out alive, whether your family's going to be okay, if you're late picking up your children. They don't care as long as their work is done. Okay, so you must exert mental effort to find the right solution. So you must be willfully persistent, yet practical and realistic. Okay, so if you have too many purposes, you will not have constancy. So that's really, really important to have just maximum three things, because as humans, once we have too many, we're not going to be able to go towards the goal. So one arrow at a time. That's what he would say. So I will share a story with you. We'll finish up with this and then we'll meditate. One of his master pranic healers, his disciple called Master Hector, is a gentleman with long hair. This is how the teacher taught him. So they were lucky that they met the teacher when he was in the physical body. He said, Hector, can you bring 50 toothpicks to me? And so he did. He actually counted 50. When the teacher tells you, like, you listen, right, to every T. And so he counted all 50 toothpicks and he goes, here, master, here's 50 toothpicks. And he says, can you break them? And of course, he really, really, really tried, and it really hurt his hands. So Master Choa Kok Sui said, that is the problem with you. You're trying to do too many things. He says, then Master Choa Kok Sui takes 50 and he takes one and he breaks it. He takes the next and he breaks it one at a time. So yes, we want to be this, the best grandmother, the best mom, the best employee, the best, gardener, the best neighbor, the best healer, the best everything. But just stick to one. Maximum of 3 is my recommendation, and go towards that. Okay, one pointed towards your goal. Okay. Anybody wants to add anything? Not today? Okay. There we are. So let's start our meditation on twin hearts.